Hey there guys, and welcome to Tech Engineered. My name's Andrew and I'm going to be sharing 5 things that you need to consider when looking to buy a new graphics card. So let's get started. So the first thing that you need to consider is what are you going to be doing with the card. Some cards are designed for rendering out things such as video and 3D modeling such as the NVIDIA Quadros or the Fire Pros from AMD. Now, if you're going to be doing that, I'm going to assume that you're not going to be watching this video because you're probably already educated on the technicalities of video rendering and will know which cards are best for you, because those are very professional level cards. So I'm assuming that most of you are going to be gamers looking for cards like these to pump out those frames per second in your games and get you a great gaming experience. So if you're going to be doing that, you're going to want to go with the GTX series on the NVIDIA side, or the R series on the AMD side. So number 2, you need to get a card that fits your resolution. Now, both companies kind of scale their series out to where they fit with the resolutions that people game at. So on the NVIDIA side, you have, of course, the Titan X up at the top that's just overkill for everything. You have the 1080 designed for 4K, you have the 1070 designed for 2K, the 1060 designed for 1080p, and then the 1050 and the 1050 Ti designed for budget 1080p. On the AMD side, with their current series, the 400 series, they don't really have a 4K option. They are choosing not to do that just because it is a smaller market, and I can see kind of why they would want to do that. But they do have the 480, which is a 2K display card that can also do VR. And I guess I should mention that on the NVIDIA side, all the cards that are a 1060 and above can do VR. But the 480 does VR. Then you have the 470, which is kind of the 1080p card. It cannot do VR. Well, it can, but it's just kind of a horrible experience. And then you have the 460, which is kind of the budget 1080p option, although I would recommend going with a 1050 or a 1050 Ti over the 460 just because they kind of just straight up win at that bracket. Now then, you can always get a card that is bigger than your resolution, meaning that the card is just like getting a 1080 for 1080p gaming, because then you'll get great performance over the next several years. And getting overkill is not a bad thing when it comes to graphics cards, so feel free to do that if you can fit it into your budget. The third thing that you might want to consider is, do you need the latest and greatest? You might be able to save a lot of money by getting last year's model of card, and I would suggest actually buying one series up from what you think would fit you in the current model. So if you're planning on getting a 1060 and you want to save some cash, I would go ahead and get a 970, because you might be able to find the card for cheaper than the current card and you might get a little bit better performance out of it, and you will save some money definitely if you can find a sale. And if you can line it up to where the new series is just coming out, a lot of last year's series will be on like a super clearance sale and you can get cards for like dirt cheap. So that is something to consider. I definitely did that up until the 10 series. The 10 series, I decided that I would go with the latest and greatest, but everything up until there, I would get last year's model just because I could save quite a bit of money on it. The fourth thing that you should consider is the size of the card. Now, you might be building just kind of a normal size computer to a bigger size computer where you can fit a full size card like this that is, a little bit more than 8 inches long. Or you might be building a small form factor build where you might want a shorty card, kind of like the one that is in that build. Even though that's not small form factor, I still put a card in there like that just because it was on sale, so I got the cheapest one that I could. And yeah, that's just something you want to consider. Small form factor builds, you definitely want that shorty card. There is always a little bit of a temperature issue on the shorter cards, however, it is not that big of a problem. The shorty cards just don't have the surface area on their heatsink to quite cool as well as a full-length card. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you're going for the topmost performance and the biggest overclock you can get, you will not be able to achieve that on a little short card. But I can get a considerable overclock on that card, which I'll leave a video of me overclocking it up in the card above, so you can check that out. But I can still get a pretty nice overclock on that little short card, so if you're building a small form factor build, I wouldn't really worry about getting a shorty card and having overheating problems or anything, because they run fine, and you can even overclock them. The last thing to consider is power consumption. If you're a gamer, your graphics card is probably going to be one of the most power-hungry components in your computer, so you need to take that into account, especially if you are just upgrading the graphics card. If you're building a new computer, you can get a power supply that can power your card, Or you can be in a situation like me, where when I'm at college in my dorm room, I cannot draw more than 600 watts on an outlet, otherwise it cuts the power off from the outlet if you try and draw more than that. So I have to keep my power consumption below 600 watts, and that really limits me to a 1060 and my Intel Enthusiast platform build. So this is really the biggest computer I can get. I've tried putting bigger graphics cards in it for benchmarking reasons, and I just can't get them to run at college. So all my graphics card benchmarking I have to do at home and not at college. And also power consumption will cost you more on your monthly electrical bill, so you can save some money by getting a more efficient card. And also, when cards come out, they are generally more power efficient than the previous series, so that is something to consider when buying last year's model. You actually might save a little bit of money if you calculate it all out and get the more power efficient card. However, I really doubt that. There isn't that much change between series anymore. A lot of cards are just really power efficient, and I think it'll be a little while longer before we see any big spikes in power efficiency in graphics cards. So those are my 5 tips of things that you need to consider when buying a graphics card. I hope it helped you, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like on it. If you like this channel, go ahead and subscribe. If you have advice for future content that can be made here, go ahead and leave that down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.